I thank you everyone for joining us. You are in the right spot. This is the Introduction to Constructing and Remixing Textbooks with LibreTexts. This is the intermediate or next level training that is being offered. And if you have it available, try to bring up your course syllabus and schedule and some sort of a notepad for taking notes, and make sure you have some place you're going to take some digital notes. We might drop things in the chat that you'll want to copy and paste to save for later. But with that little introduction, I wanted to introduce myself. I am Justin Sorb, and I'm the Director of Curriculum Innovation and Development here at LibreTexts. And this presentation does have the slides, which we will share as well, and they're licensed with the license down below. A little bit more about myself. I have a background in mathematics and chemistry, and my doctorate actually is in chemistry, and I was taught for 10 years in different institutions. But my PhD research was predominantly in the online textbook field, designing online textbooks, the pedagogy behind online textbooks. And my original book from my graduate work is actually hosted at LibreTexts. And since joining with this group about a year and a half ago, maybe a little bit closer to 2 years now, I have been heading up the LibreText Academy, but obviously, I work in social sciences and physics and chemistry and mathematics, all along the bottom there. I like to have my little library icon so you can see the kind of the fields that I'm involved in. I'm pretty interdisciplinary. But I like to give that just as a background so you know who you're talking to, what kind of background I have, where I'll be coming from. One thing I want you to be cognizant of is this is not a lecture series. I'm not here to talk to you. I am here to show you some things, of course, but really this is a learning environment. So let's get metacognitive for a bit. If you saw my previous presentation, this slide will look familiar. I do want you to just take a minute to think about what creates an effective learning environment in your classroom. And then think of one thing that creates a good learning experience for your students, especially when trying to activate conversations and engagement online. Because what this is I am currently acting as an instructor, and you all are acting as students. So think about the things that your students you wish they did, and then keep that in mind as we move forward. I'm gonna give you a minute just to think about those things. I find it good to just jot it down on a piece of paper in front of me to remind myself, hey, I'm supposed to be a good student right now. All right. Hopefully, you all did that little mental exercise. I can tell you that these webinars usually go a lot better when they're more like the classroom, and that the faculty that are attending are engaged as students would be. And you all know what a good engaging student is. So let's get started with our LibreText LibreVerse, our Launchpad. If you click on the rocket ship from any of our pages, you'll get to this page. I like to remind people of this right off the bat. All the things on the top here are our services and platforms, our assessment platforms, how we find things, tools that we provide. And down below are our 16 libraries. And all those things you have access to for free with your verified instructor accounts. If you don't have a verified instructor account, we'll have some support in a few minutes for you to get there. But for right now, just if you're unaware whether or not you're a verified instructor, if you click on that rocket ship from literally any LibreText page, in the upper right-hand corner, you should be able to see your name, your email address, and the green verified instructor little words written out for you. If you don't see that, then you might need help getting your account verified. We'll have a breakout session where you can get that help in about 10 minutes or so, once we do our quick little introductions. This is all brought to you in partnership with the OERI and the ASCCC. This allows everyone in the community colleges of California to have unlimited publishing of customized OER books on LibreTexts. We have a sustainable hosting platform for not just textbooks, but also images and files and supplemental materials you might have, ancillary materials and assets, building collections of these materials or ancillary materials for our books. We have a whole homework library. We have a bunch of H5P interactives. We have ability for you to have accessibility checklists, support for all these tools, and an accessibility first design platform. All of this is for free for all of you in this partnership. You also, of course, have access to our 4,000 plus books that you can use to remix your own material or use as is, and access to over 300,000 questions in our Adapt homework system. And as being in the state of California, you have access to our free homework system called Adapt. So all these things come with no cost to you. So I'm glad that you came here to learn a little bit more about authoring in LibreTexts. When you do publish in LibreTexts, since you have unlimited free books that you can publish, they will go into the OERI Commons, which the URL is there. That's because the OERI is part of our LibreNet consortium, and every institution in the community college system in California has an affiliate membership as part of being with the ASCCC. You have priority support, and your books will be showcased there along the way. So all those are things you have access to, and they're all located on that launch pad. Hopefully by now you've had a chance to go click into a LibreText page and click on that rocket ship in the corner to get here. We're going to be focusing a lot on authoring today and remixing because that's what this workshop's on. And those things all happen with the Commons and the Conductor, which are those tools on the top. The Commons is where you can view books and what books we have in our catalog. I like to think of it as the front of the house of a restaurant. And then the Conductor, any verified instructor has access to our Conductor, which is our project management system. Think of that as the back of the house. That's where the things are made, they're built, and then they are put up for delivery to the front of the house. So we often call these things two sides of the same coin. One is where you build, one is where you view. But they're behind the scenes, they're actually the same platform. So what are we going to be doing today with this LibreTexts? Building textbooks, finding textbooks, making materials for your classroom. Before that, I wanted to step back and say what is assumed before entering this workshop. So this is the workshop that follows the first workshop. So the first session was Introduction to LibreTexts into the LibreVerse. It was a 2-hour introduction. It was presented on March 11th and also April 2nd. And those were announced through the OERI and ASCCC. And then this one follows that. So I'm going to assume that that knowledge about how the LibreText works and the LibreVerse is already covered. If you missed it, we do have those recorded and you can go back and watch those. And then just as an upcoming announcement, on May 5th, we do have another 2-hour workshop. That one will focus on our assessment systems, primarily ADAPT homework system. And keep an eye out on the listservs that you're on. More of these will be coming out in the next few years as we keep expanding the offerings for training for everyone here and the ASCCC. In addition to the things that are specifically for the community colleges of California, I do want to remind you that we do have free webinars every single month. That's just generally through LibreTexts Academy. Every odd month, we have a Basics for Beginners. So I told you if you missed the Basics for Beginners 2-hour workshop, we have a truncated version every odd month. So there will be one in May, and then also one in September and November. And then we had our Finding Resources and Authoring in February. This next week, April 24th, we have one on remixing and custom books, which is basically another 50-minute version of this one that you're getting a 2-hour version of today. So if you just want to recap or revisit things or check in next week, you can definitely do that. And then we will have a free Intro to ADAPT homework system in June. And I wanted to highlight our LibreFest full week-long workshop in July, which is a full week of working with the LibreTexts team. Everyone in your systems gets free access to that virtual workshop. It's a great way to get a lot of work done to rebuilding your curriculum in your class. And this just follows along with our construction guide, which is our user manual. So basically these webinars just kind of walk through our construction guide and give you little overviews. So all that's there just to tell you kind of what this whole workshop is a part of and the larger ecosystem of support and training that we're trying to provide here at LibreTexts. So all that in mind, what are we doing today? Well, we're going to work with the Conductor to build the back-end side of building a textbook. So we want you to be able, by the end of the day, be able to describe what publishing means and looks like in LibreTexts and what a workbench is. We want to be able to describe the features that LibreTexts offers to make publishing easier or to make less of a headache, and be able to find existing material in LibreTexts libraries to use in remix or customized books, and then walk out today at the end of 2 hours with a few chapters already done for your class. That's the goal today. Yes, you should be able to have a couple chapters of a book by the end of this 2 hours. So outline for today, we're going to do some learning objectives of prep work, having a plan, then learning how to edit your table of contents, which is what we call remixing, being able to edit a page, and being able to incorporate some interactive materials and evaluating the accessibility and using our AI co-author. So these are learning objectives and kind of outline for this whole entire walkthrough. First step is thinking about what publishing is. So in the world of LibreTexts, there are public areas over here, campus bookshelves, and learning objects. And then there's a hidden workbench that you can't see when you're logged in. The hidden workbench is where all unpublished work lives. You can go there. You can give access to other editors. You will be an editor today. You will be able to create a book in the workbench today. It is not public. No one else can see it except for people that you ask to be able to see it. And the act of publishing in LibreTexts simply means moving something from an unpublished workbench into one of those other three areas. In terms of what you can do, nothing changes. You can still edit books, you can still modify them, you can still add chapters, you can still remove pages once they're in a public area. The only thing that changes from a LibreText standpoint between published and unpublished is who can see it without having access. Everything in the blue boxes areas is public. Everything in the red workbench is private. Make sense? Sound good? So publishing for us is not an act of reviewing things when we do base level reviewing to make sure that they're usable on the front end, but it's not a big long publishing process where we freeze something into a first edition or freeze things into a second edition. It is just a way to say something is not ready for public view or it is ready for public view. But in terms of your abilities to edit things, these are like living textbooks. You can edit them whether they're unpublished or published. And in terms of our three bookshelves of where your book can be published to, they are the campus bookshelves, the bookshelves, and the learning objects. So general use textbooks are what we put in the bookshelf. So if you go to a regular publisher and you're like, hey, I'm just looking for a book on composition. Great. Here's some books on composition that could be used at any institution with any syllabus, anybody, anywhere. That's what you'll find in the bookshelves. In the learning objects is where you'll find interactives and ancillaries. So think of case studies or lab manuals or exercises or an interactive module on how to do this one specific thing. Anything that could be accompanying any textbook is something you'll put in the learning objects. So a lot of people do a great job building worksheets or making little interactive modules or simulations. Those sorts of things will all live in our learning objects because they really could go with anything in the bookshelves. The power of LibreText really lies in our campus bookshelves, where you can make custom books that are a mixture of things from the bookshelves and things from the learning objects area, and also some pages that you author yourself. So those will be tied to a specific institution and a specific course and usually a specific instructor to say, these are things that have been curated and designed to be useful for my students at this place at this time. And maybe you're going to reuse it over and over again. So depending on what you're doing from your book standpoint, your publishing work may end up in the bookshelf if you are authoring brand new content that could be useful to anybody anywhere, generally. Or if you're building a set of worksheets or answer materials or case studies or lab manuals, then they may end up in the learning objects area. Or if you are working on a mixture of those things that are specific for your students in your class aligned to your syllabus, then they will probably end up in the campus bookshelves. But where you end up doesn't matter. You all are going to start the same place at the workbench. Okay? And here's just an example of a campus bookshelf. This is at Fullerton College in the Geosciences Library. So in the Geosciences Library, you can go to the campus bookshelves to Fullerton College and see the Ikeda here, who has an Introduction to Earth Science as well as an Introduction to Geology book specifically for their class. But that also means from the OER Commons, you should be able to look at all of the books by Ikeda and see that there are some from math books all the way to Introduction to Earth Science and Introduction to Geology. So this professor happens to have actually published books in 3 of our different libraries. So they would be in the campus bookshelves for each of those 3 different libraries. Right. So how do you do this publishing? Again, this comes down to the conductor, which is our project management system. So the front of the house, back of the house. Front of the house is a textbook. Back of the house is a project management system where we build things, we create things, we author things. And this is where we have our authoring teams who can write the book, who can read the book before it's published, who wants to work on different tasks, assigning deadlines. This is how you access the Remixer. This is how you access the table of contents builder. This is where you would access any peer reviews that have been submitted for your book once it's published, any accessibility checklist tools that you want to make sure you want to access. And we have our AI co-author is all accessed through this. I like to say, if you're looking to do something with your book, you're going to do it with the conductor. If you're looking to read it or use it, you're going to do it with the library. But if you're going to access it to be able to edit things, then that's going to be there. And you can see across the top, this is the bar that you see in the accessibility, in the conductor. That's where you can edit the properties of the book, like the title, managing who's in the team, using our AI co-author tools that help you to do some basic metadata. And then you can access your peer reviews and our accessibility checklist as well. And I'll walk through more of these details, but I just want to get it in your head that you find your book, you look for your book, you can look at what it looks like, but at the end of the day, if you want to access it to do anything with it, you're going to do it through our conductor platform. So let's get your class an OER textbook. The steps that I like to encourage people to think about is number one, think about what's already out there in the LibreTexts Commons, for instance, or what else is out there beyond LibreTexts, which would be other OER books, other licensed books that you might be able to use. Then think about where do you want to start with that material. If it's all in LibreTexts, you're good to go. You don't need to think about it. Or you can possibly find some formats of your own material, Microsoft Word documents, HTML documents, and you might want to have those harvested into our library so you can use them in our library. We are also a library. We're not just a publishing platform. And then we can think about, maybe I just want to remix what we already have. So these are different things that we could do to get started. What do I do? You do everything in the LibreTexts conductor. And then at the very end, we'll touch on how to publish this once you're in a good situation with that. So I said all that, but I actually wanted us to start with step 0, which is making a textbook map for your course. Because people get so hung up on thinking about building, and doing, they don't realize how much of this should be prep work. Think about what you need to build before you build it. So I'm going to put a link in the chat for a course or a book. For Jennifer there, the question. I would say we're building what could be a course pamphlet or course materials of everything that you need for a course, or for a book that you just want to publish that's kind of a standalone from a specific pedagogy. But I think you're going to want to do a textbook map for your syllabus would probably be the best word to say it. Let me copy this link and drop it in the chat. If you're unfamiliar with how Google Drive works, this is a copy link, which means if you open it into a new browser, it should ask you to copy this document. And you can see here, I have a textbook/course map. So depending on how you're thinking about using this. So this will say, I would like to make a copy of it. When you click on make a copy, this will give you a copy of a spreadsheet that I've already designed and given some examples in. Okay. So what you do with a textbook map is really up to you. What the goal is for you to be able to have a bunch of links to different topics in the OER world. So I'm going to say right here, this is my exam 1 unit. My first module is going to be on atoms. And then my learning objectives for this is going to be about the nucleus and about electrons. And then here is some description of what I want to find, or maybe a description of what I did find, then a link to it, and then some any notes. So for example, here I have a link to an OER page, and I say this covers X well, but not Y. Or maybe I want to make a note here that says, hey, this is a good page, but it only has 1 video. I would like to have more videos for my class. And just to note, you can erase any and all of this. I am just giving some things as an example. What you should do is try to figure out how you want to organize your book, not organize, how your course is organized. Maybe it's by exam period, maybe it's by topic. However your class is organized, you want to reflect that in a nice little book and then start to look at different OER sources that you can find. And we're going to have some walkthroughs on how to do this. But for right now, you should be able to even start to fill out from your course schedule what units you're teaching, what modules you might call those, what learning objectives, and every single field is different for what they organize their course around. Sometimes your field is very old and has been taught in the same way over and over again. So everyone starts with chapter 1 and chapter 2, and they're all going to be the same. But it could be something completely different for you depending on how you organize your class. Can I see some thumbs up of people who are able to make a copy of that? Awesome. Ooh, explosions of thumbs ups happening. Great. I appreciate that. Some of you remember that engagement is a very critical way of getting a good teaching environment. I appreciate it. I do want to point out that you do not need to use LibreTexts for all of your OER material. We are a library. If you want to use something from outside of our library and it is OER, we can bring that into our class, our library. So we can harvest things into our library. Don't feel constrained. Find the best OER material you can find out there. There's a lot of great stuff out there. LibreTexts was kind of founded on the mission of OER should be available to interact and remix by everybody. So we take the approach of if you find great stuff, awesome. We're a library. Libraries should bring good stuff into the library. So that way it's available for everybody. Okay, so we are going to work on our textbook maps for a few minutes. Here is the breakout rooms that I want you to do. If you are very new to this and you don't even know if you have a LibreTexts verified instructor account, you're not entirely sure you know how to do getting to the conductor. I want you to stay in this room, and Jennifer is going to help to make sure that you got your account set up, all the access that you need, and then we'll get you started on making that textbook map. But we want to make sure you have all the tools necessary that you may need. If you are, actually, I'm not going to have room 1 or 2 because of the size of the group. With the size of this group, we can do it all in one room. So I'm just going to delete room 2. So everybody else who has their verified instructor account feels pretty comfortable with their access and making sure they know what a conductor is and how to get to that. And you're relatively familiar with LibreTexts, feel free to jump into room 1. And I'm going to ask Jennifer, you should be able to go, maybe I'll try it first.
Do you want me to create the breakout room, or do you already have it?
I just did, but let me see if I can get into one. You guys should be able to jump into room 1 as you're ready, or stay here if you don't want to and you want to get help there. Uh, Jennifer, I don't know if you can go into the breakout room still as a host and put me into room 1.
I think I can send you to room 1.
Do
I
it.
see 2 rooms though, still.
I made 2 because we might need 2 later. But
Okay. Well, do you want me to move the person in room 2?
yeah, move them to room 1.
Okay. And you are, and I presume you want me to pause the recording.
Or you can have, yeah, you can do that. Pause it. That'd be great.
Me, I
Mohammed, did you have a quick question?
yeah, I've clicked on the the rocket sign,
Mhm.
and once I click on it, it doesn't recognize me. It recognizes me on the home page, but then it says your instructor profile is not verified.
I'll take a look.
Okay, thank you.
Perfect. Well, welcome back. Hopefully, in your breakout rooms, you made sure you were verified, got your account, and we walked through basically how to just search different ways to find materials that might be helpful for fleshing out your textbook map to get you ready to do some remixing and authoring. And as I mentioned in my breakout session, we specifically did look for things that were in LibreText, even though I told you that you don't need to find OER on LibreTexts. And I want to talk a little bit more about what that means. As a quick recap, for those of you who maybe were working on verification, you can search an individual library, and then that will give you results everywhere, including the bookshelves and the courses area, which is the campus bookshelves. And if you click on just the bookshelves, then you'll get just materials that are in the bookshelf area, which is the common use bookshelves. And you can also use Google or ChatGPT or some other place. If you do use Google, you can end it with site:/libretext.org. That will return any page in any of our libraries with content about that. So if you're not sure which library to go with, you can also say in using a ChatGPT or other large language model AI, you can say recommend a LibreText book that covers something. One note that I like to point out for everybody is if you go about it that way, keep in mind that AI is a language model. So I have found that it frequently gets the name of the page right, but it gets the link wrong. So it gets the numbers and the link. So perhaps there is a page in the world called structure function relationship in mitochondria and chloroplasts. That page does exist in LibreTexts. It is not 5.3 anywhere, and the link that it has for it is not the right link. So what I would recommend is if you do something with a AI, recognize that it's a language model, which means it can usually find words that are right, titles that are right, but it will frequently get links and numbers that are wrong. I just like to throw that caveat out there. Good. So let's talk a little bit about what you can do with stuff that you find in the world of OER. We do have our prep work done. We have a plan. We're still finding some resources. They might be outside of LibreTexts. What you might want to think about is books versus organization. So when someone asks me about courses or textbooks, this is where the line gets blurred. So in the chemistry library, for instance, we do have the OpenStax book that we have taken. It is OER. It is somewhere else, and we brought it into our library. This is not any animosity between us and OpenStax of we want their book and they're writing it and we're just taking it. We have two different models for OER. They have a more publishing model of they get a group of people together, they work on the book, they publish the book after some review by experts, and they put together homework that goes with the book. It's a very, very slow process that takes a long time, but is considered by them more polished and useful by a wide audience. We have a more microscale approach of an individual instructor with their individual course may have their own agenda, their own way they want to teach things, and they don't want to adopt somebody else's view of doing things. So we allow you to mix and match and make your own little course with a custom book. So we have different philosophies about how to use OER. They're both useful. We like each other. We always hang out whenever we see each other at OER conferences. Not a big deal. But you'll notice that the books are there. So this is an example of taking OER from somewhere else, putting it in our library so that you can use it in your own custom way. Another one here is Chem Prime. That's my textbook that I wrote with my co-authors. This material is all from us. We wrote it, it's ours, and we published it first and foremost on LibreTexts. So that's our book we published for wide use on LibreTexts. But then you'll notice that there's a map here called Molecular Approach by Tro, but it's called a map. A map is where somebody else's book has a chapter structure that a lot of people like and is very useful, but that book is not OER. So Tro is not an OER author. But one of the easiest ways, if you're a ZTC coordinator, I'm talking to you, one of the easiest ways to get a professor to move from a for-profit publishing model to OER is to give them an OER book that has the same table of contents as their old book. Because then they don't need to change their chapter numbers in their slides. They don't need to change what sections their test covers. All of their existing materials still work. But this one on LibreTexts has our OER pages, but in the same order as Tro's book. Does that make sense? So we use the same organization, but we did not use any of his content. And that's called a textbook map. So if you see the word map somewhere, that's something that we made a version of someone else's book in the same table of contents order. You can't copyright a table of contents. Organizational structure is not part of that type of copyright. So we can use the same organization as long as we use none of their material. And then the third way is over here. This is what I do when I teach classes with OER. So this is a colleague of mine, Caitlin Zamalt. She wanted to organize her text online in the order of her tests. So when her students ask her, what is on test 1? She'll say all the pages in unit 1. There's no chapter 1, there's no chapter 2, there's no chapter 3, there's no read chapter 3, but not 3.5. It is everything that's under unit 1 is on exam 1. Everything on exam 2 is in unit 2. So she took pages from all over the OER world and then remixed and matched them up to make a book that is based on her syllabus alone. So this is a whole different paradigm for how to organize and structure your books. And you can do it because it's OER. You can remix and move things around. So these custom remixes are what you have access to do an infinite number of because of the ASCCC's collaboration with LibreTexts. And that's why our model is different than a lot of other OER groups out there. We're not looking to publish a book that many, many people are going to adopt as is. We want to give a library of excellent resources that you can put into however your pedagogy is going to work for your class. So those are the 4 different models I mentioned. Author something, publish it on LibreTexts. That's my book, Chem Prime. OpenStax Chemistry 2nd Edition. That is something authored elsewhere, but has an OER license that we then put into LibreTexts so that people could use that in their own remixes. Or you could make a remix of a lot of other material, but make it in someone else's order. Or you can just say, hey, this one is for American River College, and I want it to be the order of my class, Chem 305. Okay? So those are 4 different ways you can think about organizing your books. For OER licensing, what can you do with the pages that you find on LibreTexts? So once you've brought in a page in the Remixer, which we're going to walk through exactly how to do this, then you'll notice that any page that you have will have auto attribution at the bottom that says, here is section 1.4 taking measurements, and it is my license for my authoring, my remix of the book. And it takes material from section 2.1 by Henry Agnew and Marissa Albert-Agnew with a different license. So in other words, this is my page in my book, which is chapter 1, section 4, but I took this page from chapter 2, section 1 of somebody else's book. And then that auto attribution is done automatically. What if all my content, the question is, what if all my content is original and I'm using endnotes, not other OER? Anything you publish on LibreTexts has to be OER. We are an OER library. So if you want material that is not OER, you can't put it on LibreTexts. You have to put it as a Creative Commons license when you publish it. Okay. All right. When I did mention that this book has a different license than the original material, that is because a collection of pages or a collection of paragraphs is a different type of entity than a book. So this is kind of separating. Oh yeah. Then you can feel free to write it. That's editing and authoring. So the question for the people in the recording question is, if it's all original work and none of it is from other OER, you're just going to choose a license at the end of your work and we'll apply it to all of your pages. And we'll talk about how to write from scratch a little later. We start with remixing, then we'll end today with authoring a single page.
Okay. I was just gonna ask that. Like, I'm trying to find the sandbox and it's driving me crazy.
Yep, we don't have a sandbox anymore.
Oh, you don't? Okay, so
Yep.
like, yeah, how do I start writing? That's
Yeah, we're gonna get there. That's the next thing after I talk about licensing. So it will be your job, whether you're authoring or whether you're authoring a remix or you're authoring a book from scratch, you will have to have a license that you're choosing for your collection. Now, that collection could be all pages that are written by you, or it could be a mix of pages that are written by you, pages by your colleagues, or other OER pages. So you're going to have a bunch of different licensing. When you request to publish is when you choose your license. So don't worry about your license right now. Just go and write and collect and remix, and then worry about your license later. Because in the OER conductor, the LibreText conductor, you have these buttons: the Open OER Remixer, viewing your project once it's published in the Commons, and then also opening your book to look at it. And then there's an important tool called Request to Publish. So at the time you are done and ready to make your book public, move it from the workbench to one of the bookshelves. That's when you click that Request to Publish, and you'll fill out this whole long form, which will ask you what license do you want for your book as a whole, and what your author's institution names are, your primary institution, all of these different things. And then you'll get to go through that. And I will just point out real quick, you can even use multiple pages in one page. So you can take a paragraph from one person, a paragraph from another person, put those both into one page on yours. LibreTexts, as far as I know, is the only platform out there that keeps track of attributions on a paragraph by paragraph level. So you can literally use, I love this person's paragraph, I'm going to keep it, but I'm also going to write my own paragraph, and I'm also going to take this person's description of some, case study because I really love it. As long as you follow the rules for how to copy and paste, which you can ask during office hours or afterwards today, then you can definitely do that, and you'll get this automatically attribution. You'll click on toggle block level attributions, and you'll be able to see them all, and I'll have a demonstration for that. So that means you don't have to use LibreTexts, but if you want to use LibreTexts power, we will ask that you ask us to harvest that book into our library so you may remix it. All this power of auto attribution That happens only within the libraries of LibreTexts. So that way you can make things very easy to use. Great. Okay, now let's talk about building a book. And this is going to be the same whether you're authoring everything from scratch or you're remixing from other materials in OER. That question is more complicated. If you modify the text, will the attribution indicate that it was modified? The tag at the bottom of the page says the material here, it has been modified, remixed, or revised, or curated by this person. And then the original source is what's documented. So the original source is there of who came up with it, which paragraph was originally by which author. It doesn't say specifically which ways it was modified. But there is a link to the original so people can go look at it. Good. All right. So let's do stuff. A lot of you have been saying, how do I do it? How do I do it? All right. Now we're doing things. We're finally through the planning stages and we're going to do some things. And you always do things in the LibreText conductor. So here is our steps and you should follow along. Number 1, click on the rocket ship on whatever page you are on in LibreTexts. Then click on the conductor, which is towards the top. It's in alphabetical order. Click on the conductor. Once you're in the conductor, you click on the big green button across the top. I've actually complained about this. I think the button is so large, people don't know it's a button. But it is a big, huge green button across the top that says Create Conductor Project. Everything in LibreText starts off as a project. Whether you are making a new homework system together, you're making a new custom book, you're making a new book, or you're making a new lab manual, everything starts off as a project. Once you click on create a new conductor project, it'll ask you what to title it. Usually just title it by the name of your book, whatever you want. Or if you just want to mess around, you can call it test project number 7. Doesn't matter. You can have as many test projects as you want. They're just private, just for you. Only you and the people at LibreText can see them. But once you are done making your project, then you have to create your book. So there's another green button that says Create Book. I don't think I have this on here. When you click on Create Book, I'm going to wait for a second. There is one choice that you cannot change once you do this, and that is choosing which library you want to make your book in. So you have to choose whether it's humanities or social sciences or math or statistics. So you have to choose a library for this book to be written in. It's not choosing which one is going to be able to be found. Anyone can find any book anywhere. But I recommend that you choose whichever library most of your textbook map came from. So if you're doing your textbook map and you're finding a bunch of pages in the social sciences library, then I recommend you publish in the social sciences library. At the end of the day, your students are going to access it through Canvas or Blackboard anyway. They're not going to go to the library to find it. What's necessary is for you to be able to find your other materials fastest. Everything on the screen there walks you through what you need. So the first thing you'll do is click on the rocket ship. Then you'll click on the conductor. Then you'll click on Create Conductor Project, the big green thing. And then you'll click on the Create Book, which is the next green thing. And now's the time for me to see a bunch of thumbs up again. If you get your book made and you have created the book, give me a thumbs up. Yes, yes. So many thumbs ups. I like it. Looking great. Awesome. Okay. So you can keep working on that if you're not there yet. I'm just going to walk through what a project does. So again, reminder from back earlier today, this is where you will assign authoring teams. So you can invite other people to look at it. You can invite your CTC coordinator to look at it. You can invite your tech person, accessibility coordinator, or your co-authors, whoever you want to invite to work on this book with you. You can invite them. You can assign people tasks. You can have all of your communication in there. We do really appreciate it when you have as much communication there as possible, especially with our team, because finding email threads is always difficult. But if all the communication is within inside of the conductor, we can see it all. This is where you access your remixer, the peer reviews that get submitted to you for your project, and some of our other tools that I'll talk about later, such as our alt text generator for images. And these are all accessed within the conductor that looks like this. You're going to want to click on the OER Remixer to get started today. So I'm going to zoom in. In your project, one of the buttons that are blue should say Open OER Remixer. And this is a little bit of a tricky thing. I'm going to walk through the steps. Click on the rocket ship. Click on the conductor. I create a new contract, create a new conductor project, but I'm just going to open one of my test projects. And I'm going to click on Open OER Remixer. It should load with a black bar at the top with your name. If it doesn't do that and it makes you log in and you do not see two panels here, then what you should do is it should automatically log you in. All right. If it automatically logged you in, you have a black name here, a black bar with a name, but you only have one panel, then close your OER Remixer and just reopen it. Sometimes it takes 2 clicks to do this. And that's just the way that we have a whole bunch of libraries and your name is getting shared. But make sure when you click on that OER Remixer, you see 2 panels. Thumbs up for 2 panels. I saw 1 thumbs up. I got another thumbs up. More thumbs up. All right, awesome. So at this point, there are 2 different things that you will be doing. And we're going to go into breakout sessions to work on this. But the 2 different things you want to do, even if you're going to author your book completely from scratch, I would still like for you to find a page and bring it into your book just so you know how it works, because we will be doing that together following our breakout session. And also, I want everyone to make a new page, even if you have no intentions of authoring anything on your own. I want everyone to bring in at least 1 page from somewhere else and then bring in and make at least 1 blank page. I'm going to show you how to do it. And then we're going to go into some breakout rooms after I give a couple more pointers. So in your Remixer, over here is the library panel. From the drop-down list at the top, you can choose any of our libraries. Even if you publish to the humanities library, you said your book's going to be in the humanities library, but you want to use a book from the social sciences library. You can choose which library you want to pull things from. And then once you do, I'm going to go over to geosciences. You'll see there's different bookshelves. And then you should be able to open your bookshelf, go to geology, for instance, and I would like to use Schulte's Fundamentals of Geology. And then once I do that, I might want to take an entire, oh my gosh, it's like I did this exact same exercise with the same thing before, because over here I already have Science of Geology. Good job, Justin. You must have done this before. So I'm going to take number 2. Rock forming materials. I'm going to drag this whole chapter over and put it over there. So now I've got that. This brought in all of that chapter 2 and all the subpages. That's how easy it is to grab material and put it into your own custom book. If you like somebody's book entirely, you can drag and drop every single chapter over into your book. Let's say I really like rock forming minerals, but I do not like to talk about classes and minerals. So I'm going to delete that one. So I can delete things from my book and I don't have to use every section of someone else's book. Okay. The second thing that you'll want to do, there's 2 different ways you might want to add a new page. One is I would like a new chapter. So I'm going to click on the top part of my book and click on the plus sign. This gives me a new page at the bottom, which is a new chapter. So this goes 1, 2, 2.1 through 8, 3, and it added new page 4. I'm going to go ahead and put this up above my back matter. Don't touch the front matter or the back matter. That's like the front cover and the back cover of a book. You want everything to be between those 2. And then you can go ahead and modify that, double click it, change the new page to empty chapter, whatever you want to call it. And then I can actually drag pages from somewhere else into my chapter. So you can build your own empty pages. Check if you don't see empty pages adding, you might have selected some other book. So if I click on Science of Geology and click on New Page, it should add it inside of that chapter. So you might need to open things or close them to see where you might have added them. How do I get rid of a page that I changed my mind on? Click on it and click the trash can. Delete page. So if you are someone who is an author and you want to build a book from scratch, you will be adding a bunch of empty chapters and a bunch of empty pages inside of those and building your table of contents first before you think about adding material. So the person who mentioned the sandbox, you might remember a new page button that was at the top. No more. Tomorrow I will talk about harvesting requests shortly after the breakout session. So if you start off with an empty table, so first of all, if you do remember clicking a new page button in the library, we got rid of that. Everything must be done through the OER remixer because it keeps all of our page numbering much better. So you can see at the top here, we have an auto numbering thing. And the auto numbering thing keeps track of, okay, if this number 2.8 got moved up here, actually, let's do it to a chapter that already exists. If I move this chapter up here, you see these are all yellow. That's because these numbering is changing. The content's not changing, but the numbering is. Okay. So all those numbering will get taken care of automatically. So when you're all done with this, you'll click on Save to Server. Save to Server will say, I'm going to add 12 new pages. I'm going to rename or renumber 4 pages. And then 12 pages are going to be unchanged. I have no pages in my example that's going to be deleted. Once I check that, and I can click down and see which pages are getting added or deleted, I go to Save to Server. This will take 28 seconds in order to run. You'll see it run through it, and a blue bar fill up across the bottom of the screen here. And once it's done, the yellow bar will turn green, and your link will now work. And now your whole book is built for you. Here's the Science of Geology, my cool chapter that existed before, and my empty chapter I just added. And if I click on the contents, I can see all the different stuff that I just did. Okay. That was a lot. We are going to have a breakout session. Let me see if I had a couple other pointers before we go into the breakout session. I think I did. Yeah. So we are going to talk a little bit about the different ways to copy, but everybody's will be forked. It will be transcluded at first. And we'll talk about what that means. You know what the library panel is here for finding the library that your books are in, and then you just find out where they're located. And then you can drag and drop, add new pages, delete pages, or edit the names. Let me do one more thing. If I was at a book, so this page right here, if you're like, how do I find the book I liked? Remember how I had you copy those URLs before? Take a look at this URL. It says this is the geology library in the bookshelves, in the geology bookshelf, and the name of the book is Mineralogy by Perkins et al. Or if you go to the page, you can see that we are in the geosciences library, bookshelves, geology, mineralogy, Perkins et al. So the URL on LibreTexts directly maps where that is located in our library. So you can find any book in our remixer by knowing that I'm going to revise it. Go to the geology library or geosciences. Go to the bookshelves. Go to geology. And here is Mineralogy by Perkins et al. So the URL directly corresponds to where a book is located. So if you have the URL for a page, you know where it's located and you can find it inside of the remixer. Okay.
I have
Excellent.
a question. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
How can so if I'm dragging a page from the book, but I want to add revise some of the content from that page, how would I be able to do that?
That is what we talk about after we do the remixing. So once we do the
Okay.
breakout session, I'm going to talk a little about it right now. But yes, that is exactly the next step.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
Can I just ask one more question? Because it's kind of related to both of these things.
Mhm.
I am just now deciding to publish this, but I've actually spent a couple of months writing it and remixing, and I have it all up on Canvas. I
Mhm.
have a Canvas version in HTML, and I have a PDF. I don't want to redo that,
Nope.
but it's already mixed.
So, so you mean you've already taken content from elsewhere and then done all the attributions for where you took it from?
And yeah, and they're different places, and I've written a bunch too.
Um, if all the things are still cited, then it's still fine. You won't have the auto attribution fancy clicking things that will be in ours. But we can harvest all that in there. And as long as it's cited properly, we might even be able to help you with the auto attribution parts.
Okay, cool.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Okay, and I'm sorry I came in late. I lost how to get in here, so you might have explained it, but my question is about the library for when you're creating your textbook. So in the past, like several years ago when I did this, my textbooks are in my campus library. Is that like, do I need to select that before I start creating the textbook?
No, everything that you make will be created in what we call our hidden workbench. And then
Uh-huh.
when you publish it, you'll tell us whether it should go into your campuses or it should go into
Okay.
a general bookshelf or it should go
So,
into learning objects.
so the library that you're picking at the beginning is like just your subject area library. It's not
Yep.
your campus bookshelf.
Yep. And it's where I would say most of the other books that you would be very similar to would be
Mm-hmm.
use the same library that most similar books are at, just for ease of finding.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Great. So I did talk about creating and editing a page. Just quickly review uh, before we jump into our breakout rooms. That's that plus sign right there. So if you click on whatever chapter you want a new page in, you click plus, it adds a page to that chapter. If you click at the top of your book, demo textbook, then click the plus sign, it'll give you a new chapter, right? So you can add a page to a chapter or you can add a whole new empty chapter. The same button does both. And then once you're in there, or if you add an empty chapter, then what you'll get is just a blank page where you can click on edit, and then you can feel free to edit whatever you want. We have a whole bunch of built-in templates, such as how to add a figure, how to add audio, how to add multi-figure, multi-caption templates. We also have a bunch of boxes that you can add, like a definition box or an emphasis box. And we can go into more detail in the breakout session of people who want to see different things. But I'll just point out that, Jennifer, if you can throw the link to the construction guide second edition into the chat, we have a full construction guide that has screenshots walking through how to do all of these things. The one thing that we do ask is that you not be a maverick and use your own way of making things. So don't make your own learning objects box. Use our learning objectives box. Don't make your own template for how you put an image in. Use ours. And the reason for this is not because we want to thwart your creativity. It's because LibreTexts is built off of sharing, remixing, and reusing. So if people are going to make another book that uses one of your pages, if we all follow the same standard, then everyone's book will look uniform. Does that make sense?
I missed how you got here, because this is
I
the part
didn't.
that
I
I'm
didn't.
having trouble with.
Uh, I can show that in a second. Yeah. So if you're at the remixer, when you
Yeah.
clicked on opening your project, so this was open my book,
Uh-huh. Oh wait,
and
open. I'm here. I see the thing with the 2 pages, and then where did you go?
I clicked on save to server and then I clicked save to server again. I can't
Save
go
to server.
backwards to show
Oh,
that.
save to server. Oh, the 14 pages. Okay,
Mhm.
save to server again. Okay, got it. It's doing it. Oh,
Yeah, so once it's built your table of contents of pages, then you'll be able to click on that view your textbook here link. You'll see all of these pages in there. And then anytime you happen to come across an empty page, so I put an empty page, I can't remember where, but we'll go to this one. Every single page will have an edit box at the top. Click on edit, and this is where you can edit your page, and you'll see all those things that were on my picture. And then during our breakout room, we'll go through all of these things.
okay.
as well. So yeah, that's basically you just click on edit and then all these are drop downs, menus, your boxes, all of those things. You do have to edit page by page. The remixer is for editing the table of contents. On a page is where you edit the page.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Yeah. Great. Thank you.
No
I
problem.
look forward to learning more.
Great. So this is where we're going to do the breakout session and we're going to work on doing these things. If the goal of this is really to use the OER remixer to drag and drop a few pages that you found earlier in your textbook map. You can drag whole chapters or individual pages. Note, I did say this again before, but I'm going to say it again. If you want to make a new chapter, a blank chapter, just add a new page at the chapter level. So click on the title of your book, click on new page. It'll add something that will be called new page, but it's really a new chapter. And then you could add subpages below that. It will automatically create a chapter. And then I do want you to at least create one blank page during this exercise, even if you're not planning on authoring anything from scratch. I just want for this exercise to create some empty page. And then you can play out some of the other stuff there. We're going to work on it together and then decide on one page that you want to customize. So this is, I think, specifically for the people who are like, how do you customize something that you found? Bring in one page, at least bring in one page, and then identify in your head which one you're going to practice customizing. So I'm gonna, when we get back from the breakout session, I'll talk to you about how to customize, and we call it forking pages. So just choose in your head which one you're going to do that next stage with, but we're going to get there together. Don't try to rush ahead. Sound good? So the breakout sessions, I'm going to put them in there. Please stay in this room. If you are planning, I'm going to write it down on the board. If you're planning on mostly just pulling things together and you're not going to do any authoring, you just want to basically take somebody else's book and maybe move it around and cut out some pieces. So if you are mostly going to just be reusing other people's material, stay in the main room. And then kind of wrap this up. So now that we're back from the breakout room, I have a couple more activities we're going to go through and I'm going to demonstrate for you. And then we'll end today's session with kind of like an open office hours. So if you want to stick around and ask some questions or ask questions that aren't part of the recording, you can do so. But I'm going to just kind of walk through a couple more things here. So first, before I get too far into this, hopefully you found the Remixer to be quite useful and easier to use than expected, and editing things to be quite useful. I wanted to point out that we're actually revamping that to make it even easier. So in the next month or so, you'll actually click on that Open OER Remixer and you'll get this screen. It's a little easier to navigate around and to see the different areas. And I believe, Delmar, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you should be able to type in, copy that whole URL that you had to find before right into here to find that page really quickly.
It actually works slightly differently. You're going to be clicking on the search button there, and it's going to pop up with a modal that you can then do a search behind it. So it's just,
there we go.
Yeah. And there's one of the screenshots I gave you in case you didn't bring it in here that has that.
I brought all of them.
Okay.
So then being able to find pages won't be necessarily click plus sign, plus sign, plus sign, plus sign, plus sign, memorize it from the other page. The search will be a lot easier. You'll also be able to change your auto numbering options. So many people didn't want unit, chapter, section every single time. They wanted different words. So that'll be something that we can change how you do that automatically. So the new automatic numbering. And duplication of pages, deleting, modifying, adding above and below will be
this will be a right. I should mention this is a right click, so you can actually select the options in C2. You don't have to go up to the bar at the very top. That's all.
A little bit easier to use, and we will have a more transparent way to look at how your book is cataloged. I don't know if this is for editing purposes.
This is the search.
This is what the search looks like.
Yeah, this is the search button. Yeah.
I just saw catalog book at the top.
Yeah, it needs to be changed. Yeah.
So you can do by title or D, which if you happen to know what that is, author, course, license, all those sorts of things you can just search for normally. It'll be a lot easier to see what book you're looking for and then how to find those things. Nice details before that. Remember that before you save to server a second time, it doesn't say save to server, save to server. Now it says save to server, then publish. So that's a little more intuitive what that means. But in terms of details, it's all very nice. So that will be rolling out. I wanted to just give you that forewarning to say, if you thought it was easy, it should be even easier soon. And it should be a lot more intuitive for people who are learning it for the first time. And for the people who are like, wow, everything changed since last time I saw this. Yes, and everything will continue to change to improve all the time. We like to have that go. All right, so for those of you who made a book, which you should have done, and you brought in at least one page, I want you to navigate to the one page in your book that you wanted to modify or practice customizing. So for instance, in my book, I brought in Science of Geology, and I brought in the Science of Geology 1.3. If you go to a book that you brought in material from someone else's book, it will have their author at the bottom, and you'll see the original book link there. And it will let you click on this toggle block level attributions to see what chapter, what paragraphs were from that other person's book. So that's all the auto attribution I mentioned earlier. But if I click on edit here, I cannot edit this book. It is what we call transcluded. Transcluded means we're taking that material from somewhere else, and then we're just dropping it in place in our own book. This is nice if you don't really care about the explicit words. You like the person's original wording. You like what updates they might make along the way. That gives you an up-to-date version of whatever edits they make will be included in your book. If you're worried about not knowing what updates are going to happen, you can click on the link to that book. And if you're signed into the library, which I have to do, if you're signed into the library and you're looking at this book page, then you'll get this little blue star right here. And that blue star will allow you to get emails whenever someone updates this page. So if you're worried about having a book in your book, a book from someone else's book into your, sorry, I should say it over again. If you're worried about having a page from someone else's book as a page in your book, and it could be updated at any time, you can always say, I want to get email updates whenever this page changes. So if that author does update something, then you'll be aware that that update happened.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
If for Libre books that I've created in the past, it won't send me like past ones, like those are just, yeah, I won't know if they've updated them or not since several years ago.
Yeah, if it's several years, you can always go back and look at the history of those pages to see if things have updated. But I recommend that you put the star on. Even now, you can go and click on those pages from your old book if they've been taken from somewhere else and go click those stars. Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So if you wanted to have your own copy of this book and you want to kind of freeze it in time and take one copy of right now and then modify that to maybe your own pedagogy or your own specific wording, then you need to do what we call forking a transclusion. So this is transcluded. Now we're going to fork it. Up at the very top of the page in the words from the title, 1.3, the science of geology, there's this little icon for those of you in computer science area or familiar with coding. This is a forking icon for when you write code and you make a fork of the code. We didn't make that word up. We didn't make this icon up. But if you click this, then what that will do is say, at this point of time, I want to take my own copy of this and make it my own. So I'm going to click that button, and it will say, would you like to fork the page? Okay. And then it'll pop up and say that it's done. And that little icon there, after it refreshes, will disappear. I'm going to restate what I just did. I have this page, The Science of Geology. It is from this other book from Lumen Learning authors. There was an icon here that said, I am transcluding this from somewhere else and I would like to fork it. So I clicked the forking button and then it created my own copy. Now, when I click on edit, I have a copy of this page here that I can edit myself, change the wording, change the formatting, and it will still be attributed as the original author, the original author's work originally. Just to let you know, when your book does get published, you will be listed as the curator of this remix. So your name's not on here right now, but it will be on here. So when you publish it, it will say this book was curated, remixed, revised by so-and-so. And then it will say, it will still maintain down at the bottom with material from this original source. So the original source will still be there. The attribution will be taken care of. And it will even say which license the original source was, even if you update your remix license. But now you can edit it. You can change the images, whatever you want to do, add a video. If you're going to use our adapt homework system, you can embed your own homework into it, that kind of stuff. All right. So I think that answers the person in my breakout session's question about how do you edit the material you brought in. So that is forking a page in order to modify existing content. And I just have some screenshots just in case the internet goes out on me for a second and I can't get access to the web page. So that would be copying material from elsewhere on LibreTexts and then making sure you're using license. You shouldn't not modify anybody's content if it has a no derivative license. This is something we talked about at the beginning of the day today. So if there is a no derivatives license, then your page should be used as is without ever forking it. Auto numbering, automatically. I wanted to bring up this. I have some slides, but I'm going to go and take a look at that same page again. Notice that, oh, great. Let me go to my book. There we go. So in this page, for instance, you'll see that this is section 6.4.2, right? So we talked about this page earlier today. It has this image. Oh, man. I got examples here from people who did not follow our guide. So as per usual, I will open up mine.
And you're gonna go over this like the sourcing, right? Like adding sources. Like most of my chapters have my text and like maybe 4 or 5 other sources.
If you're doing the sources on your own and you have your own source section, then that's up to you how you want to do it, whatever style guide you want to use. If you're talking about that auto attribution feature on the bottom, that comes as part of using our remixer from other
Okay, so
pages on our.
I'll do it by myself then, because I feel
Yep.
like I would lose my mind if I have to try to rebuild everything. Okay,
Yeah,
thank
and
you.
if we do have ways that we can help you with that, I would say stop by office hours sometime and we can walk through the nitty gritty of that. It's not that difficult, but it's too detailed to go into during this session.
Okay, sounds good.
So I did want to talk about auto numbering. So you'll notice that this is section 1.4. And if I click on edit, this table has this fancy little text that says page index 1. And we talked a little bit in my breakout session about some other fancy words, and we did a little demo of this. But what this does is it takes care of automatic numbering for figures. So if this is your first table, you call it page index 1. If it's your second table, then you put page index 2. If it's your third one, you put page index 3. And what that does is it automatically turns this number 1 on page 1.4 to being 1.4.1. So it takes care of that auto numbering again. I mentioned this earlier today. Please do use our style guide for how you insert tables, for how you insert figures. And yes, you might not understand what the page index does, but you can probably see right now, this is really powerful for if your chapter 1.3 becomes someone else's 7.4, because it will automatically renumber all of your tables and your figures, no matter what order they went in from the original book into the current book in the proper way. So some examples of what that looks like. There. So here's an example of a figure that gets the page index 1, and I can also use that figure page index 1 right inside of my text. So if I want to reference a figure, you still use that page index magic. And you can use it for all of your figures, your tables, your equations, anything you want to. That page index thing will work seamlessly. Here's an example of a page index used in one of our exercise boxes in one of our tables, 20.1. This is exercise 20.1.1. So basically, anywhere you want to use this little page index thing, you just replace that number with whatever number of that thing. Figure 1, figure 2, figure 3. That's all you have to worry about is what the order of the figures are on yours. Question is, how do I know I cannot edit a page? Is it blocked automatically from editing? We have some tools for detecting that, but the best way to do it is if you're looking at your page, the license is always in the upper left-hand corner. The only one that you can't edit yourself is if it has ND, no derivatives. So the Creative Commons no derivatives means you can use it as is, but you cannot modify it. If you do not see ND, you don't need to worry about it. We also highly encourage you, if you publish your own stuff, to not use ND because it makes your material a lot less useful to other people. Great. We only have a couple more things here, so I won't take up too much of your time. I know it's 5 o'clock, but I do want to point out we do have a ton of interactive things that I did not bring up here. 3D molecular viewers, three-dimensional graphing. Our ADAPT homework is our next assignment, so you can embed ADAPT right into here, but you can also build your own homework sets. All of that is in our next training that I mentioned in the beginning. I believe it's Jennifer can drop the date and time in the chat. That would be great. And a lot of other interactive things you can put into your textbook. I would recommend that you go back and watch the introduction to the LibreVerse that we gave prior and their videos for it. That will give you an idea of all the different interactives that you can put into your textbook. And that's much more detailed editing, but the construction guide does have help for that. So just some quick little strategies for you as you're thinking about how overwhelming this could be. Just keep in mind that you don't have to do everything yourselves. Writing something from scratch by yourself is the longest and most difficult way to do this. You can definitely take a textbook that's 90% of what you want and modify it. That's the power of OER. You can also work with your students, giving them extra credit assignments to say, hey, could you rewrite this example problem or rewrite this with some material? You can have students do extra contributions, possibly by rewriting a textbook page as an assignment. That's a great way to have students engage with the material. If they can teach the material, that gives a higher level of understanding to it. And then you can also use what we call, we don't call it, it is called open pedagogy, where you engage in faculty and student joint revisions and authoring. So if you collaborate with your students by giving them feedback and reviewing their work and they submit work, this is a really great way for teaching open licensing, what open philosophy is in your class, in your field, and then also to continuously improve your curriculum materials, increase motivation for students to have higher standards in their products, because if their materials are going to be used by next semester's students, they'll want to make it good. And it also gives you external deadlines for yourself to improve your book. So if you want to improve chapter 5 this semester, make an assignment about improving chapter 5, then you will get chapter 5 improved. So that's a great way to do that. I did want to mention, because people did talk about this, we went into this in more detail in that first original talk, but we do have a lot of tools for AI for adding summaries, for adding tags, which develop your index automatically for your book. So we'll take care of that for you. And then we also have AI that can generate alt tags for all of your images. So that's a big hurdle in getting your project through to the final steps of editing. And that's also available through your conductor with that AI co-author tool. And there are some videos on our YouTube channel that will walk through exactly how to do that. But I wanted to point out that those tools are available to you as well before you get to the final publishing page, along with all of our accessibility checklists that we have. So take a look at those. All right, so with that, I'm going to conclude this, and I apologize for running a few minutes over. We will stick around for any last-minute questions, but we do understand people have busy lives, so feel free to get going. But I wanted to give a plug for our LibreText Academy. We run office hours twice a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 o'clock in the morning Pacific time at zoom.libretext.org. Jennifer, if you can throw that in the chat. And we also have a ton of other opportunities for LibreFest I mentioned earlier, our monthly webinars I mentioned earlier, and feel free to reach out about any of the other opportunities that you see there. And thank you very much for coming. It was a great webinar. I appreciated all of your interaction.